The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and every kind of filth. Even so, on the outside you appear righteous, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and evildoing. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the memorials of the righteous, and you say, 'If we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have joined them in shedding the prophets' blood.' Thus you bear witness against yourselves that you are the children of those who murdered the prophets. Now fill up what your ancestors have measured out." The Gospel of the Lord.
Jesus, to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It occurred to me a little bit too late that I probably should have brought the text of St. Ignatius's rules with me. But as we hear the gospel today, we hear Jesus speaking to the scribes and Pharisees in such a strong way, right? And it can be good for us to examine our consciences with these sorts of sayings of Jesus to make sure that we are not being hypocrites like the scribes and Pharisees, but striving to clean the inside as well as the outside. But sometimes we might hear Jesus say these things to us in the wrong way, you could say. St. Ignatius, in his 14 Rules for Discernment, talks about the way that the Spirit speaks to people that are on the way of progress. He says that the Spirit speaks differently to people who are obstinate, who are persistent in their sin, who go from bad to worse, from mortal sin to mortal sin without thought of ever that I should change my ways. In those cases, it's the Spirit of God that stings the person's conscience and tries to get them to realize the error of their ways, much like we hear Jesus speaking in the gospel today, speaking to the scribes and Pharisees to try to shake them out of that hardened heart, that obstinance that they persist in. But St. Ignatius says, for those who are going from good to better, who are in the path of life, working, striving to follow the Lord, it's not the voice of the Spirit, which is one that discourages or like tries to push us down. That's the voice of the evil one. In people that are moving from good to better, the voice of the Spirit is one which is encouraging and that sustains the person in those moments. I'd encourage you to check out the 14 Rules of St. Ignatius and to see how he lays it out there in particular. Granted, for those moving from good to better as well, there do come times where there are tears and moments where we have to convert from ways that we are continuing in sin. But it's not a condemning or a discouraging voice, but instead one that stands behind us and says, I'm going to bring you through this. I'm going to bring you to a place of healing. Sometimes we think that Jesus always speaks to us like he speaks to the scribes and Pharisees today, but that's not the case, as St. Ignatius shows to us. For those of us in the path moving from good to better that are trying to follow in the Lord's ways, the voice of the Lord is one of encouragement.